Hi there, welcome to challenge number 10 of our monthly Prep Your Pantry challenge. Well, hi there, thank you for stopping by and welcome to our challenge number 10 of the monthly Prep Your Pantry challenge. Well, if you're new here, I just want to take a few minutes to explain to you how this challenge works. This challenge simply consists of me posting one video on the first of each month with a list of 3 to 4 items to focus on for the month. Now, this challenge is completely customizable in the fact that you can focus on one item for the entire month and then circle back and pick up the ones that you left off, or you can do a different item for each week. It completely depends on what your grocery schedule is, what your budget is, and what your needs are. One of the goals of this challenge is just to help you develop that prepper mindset, which is simply being prepared for the unexpected. Some of these things could be like natural disasters, an illness, job loss, just anything that is going to prevent you from getting to the grocery store to get the items that your family needs. This challenge is for beginners as well as expert preppers. And you don't have to start with challenge number 1 and work your way through it. You can start right now in this challenge with us, and then you can go back and pick up on the ones that you missed out on. Now, before we move on to those challenge items for this month, I just want to throw out there that we do have a Facebook group if you're interested in that. Just be sure to answer that one security question so that you can be approved to join the group. Now, whether you're in the Facebook group or not, be sure to comment down below. Ask any questions that you may have or give any advice that you may have. This is all about learning to grow our pantries together one month at a time. Okay, so I think that pretty well covers it, so let's head on into the kitchen and let's take a look at this month's challenge items. Okay, so here we are with our first challenge item, and that is simply going to be rice. Now, believe it or not, there are over 40,000 different varieties of rice out there. And here in front of me is just a few examples of the types of rice that I like to keep on hand. Rice is a really good item to keep in your pantry because it's a good source of vitamins. It's also naturally gluten-free, so there's not going to be any gut inflammation. It helps with constipation and it helps manage blood sugar levels. And that's just a few benefits of eating rice. Rice also comes in different grains. You have your long grain, medium grain, and short grains. And it also comes in, as you can see in front of me, different ways to prepare it. Some examples of that would be the dry, which is this bagged rice here. I have it in white and in brown. Here is another dry rice, and it is basmati. You can also get these ready rices. Uncle Ben's is just one example or one brand that you can get that in. But this is for when you are really pressed for time. You pop it in the microwave, it only takes 90 seconds. And as you can see here, we can also get this in the whole grain, the basmati, the jasmine. You can even get some that are flavored, like here's a creamy 4 cheese. So just some examples there of the ready rice. There's no way that I can show examples of all of the different varieties that are available, but I did want to show you the difference between the dry, the ready, and I don't have minute rice, which is actually just dehydrated, where you just add the boiling water, cover it, and it's ready in 5 minutes. Now, when it comes to storing rice for the long term, cooked rice can actually be frozen. All that you have to be sure of is to make sure that it is completely cooled before you bag it up or put it in an airtight container to store in your freezer. Now, uncooked rice can be stored in many different ways because this is a very long-term food item. If you just keep it in the regular bag like this, it's going to last for years. But some examples of how to store it would be, of course, in the original bag. You can also place it in mason jars. You can use the vacuum sealer attachment to suck out as much oxygen and air as possible when you use it in the mason jars, or you can just put it in the jar itself. You can put it in heavy-duty freezer bags. Really, any kind of airtight container will do and add to the extension of the shelf life. You can get food safe buckets to put it in, And I have here an example of what I do. I actually do use the food safe bucket option to store my rice. And what I do is just get a bucket, I label it rice, and I start filling it up with bags. Now, like I said, this is going to last a very long time in the original bag, so I just toss them in here, and then when I get around to it, I will either put it in a Mylar bag with some oxygen absorbers and seal this bucket shut, or in some cases, I've even just sealed this up in the bags. The main goal whenever you're storing your rice for the long term is to eliminate as much light exposure, cross-contamination, moisture, and provide a barrier from insects. So there you have it for our first item in this month's challenge, and that's rice. Okay, well here we are with our second challenge item, and that's vegetables. Now I think we all know that vegetables are extremely healthy for you. They come in a wide range of variety. They're a great source for specific vitamins and minerals. They help in the development of your little ones. They're high in fiber and potassium, and they just play a very important role in a well-balanced diet. Another great benefit of vegetables is that they change with the seasons, so they're always readily available, whether you grow your own or you purchase them at your local market or grocery store. In front of me are just a couple examples of the different ways that you can purchase vegetables. Of course, we know that there's fresh vegetables. I didn't include them here because those are not going to last very long in a prepper pantry. So here in front of me, I have the canned variety as well as the frozen variety. And as you can see, there are just tons of different varieties that you can have on hand, depending on what your favorites are. When it comes to storing your vegetables, of course, you can can your own in a pressure canner, and they're going to last for a couple years or longer. And same for buying it in the grocery store cans. These are going to last long term. They're going to last beyond the expiration date that is stamped on the cans. And the frozen items, as long as they remain frozen, will last indefinitely. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos of mine that you have to be careful how well you stock your freezer, because if you're in an SHTF situation where you lose power for an extended amount of time, and this is your sole source for your food, may not be such a good idea. You may want to invest in some of the backups in the canned variety. Even though I always say stock what you eat and eat what you stock, I believe the canned vegetable is an exception to that rule, because once your fresh vegetables are gone, your frozen vegetables are gone, and you still need some vegetables in your diet for survival, you're going to be happy to have a few canned items in your backup pantry. Well, I believe that pretty well covers the vegetable category, so let's go ahead and move on to our third challenge item for the month. We are with our third challenge for this month, and that is nut butters. Nut butters are a great plant-based source of proteins that are full of vitamins and minerals, and they come in a ton of different varieties. They provide healthy fats and plant-based compounds that are important for a healthy diet. Now, one downfall of nut butters is they're around 200 calories per 2 tablespoons. So if you're a nut butter lover, you may have to use a little restraint. Now, the purest of nut butters should only contain one ingredient, and that is the nut. So be sure to pay attention to those ingredient labels if that's something that's important to you. Another tip whenever it comes to natural nut butters is when you're storing it, store it upside down, and that will help with the separation, because all the oils are going to flow to the bottom, and then whenever you open it up, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. Now, some of you may not include Nutella in your nut butter list, but I do. It does contain hazelnuts, but yes, it has some cocoa in there too. Just a few other examples of some nut butters would be cashew butter. Sunflower seed butter is also considered a nut butter. You have pistachio butter, almond butter, and the list just goes on and on. Now when it comes to storing your nut butters, you can store it in your pantry at room temperature, or you can store it in the refrigerator. Now once you open this, studies say that shelf temperatures in your pantry is good for about 2 or 3 months once it's opened. And then other studies say that if you leave it in the refrigerator, once opened, it's good for 3 to 6 months. Unopened peanut butter, is it a forever food in your opinion? Okay, so that's going to do it for our third food challenge for the month with nut butters. Okay, so here we are with our non-food item for the month. And it may look a little strange to you because it's not one specific item, but I'm going to explain that. If you tuned into last month's challenge number 9, we did a little discussion on developing that prepper mindset. Well, this month we're going to go a little further with that in filling a miscellaneous bucket. Now this can be a basket, a bucket, some people use a clothes hamper, it's totally up to you. But the goal of this is to dig deep into that prepper mindset and think of miscellaneous items that are going to be useful if you don't have power, you don't have electricity. Just as I go through my current basket here, you'll get a good idea of what I'm talking about. Now, the purpose of this basket is just to toss things into it as you see them in the store and as your budget allows. And then once it gets full, then you can separate these out into their specific totes or however you go about storing your prep items. Or you can just put it in a tub, put a lid on it, put it on the shelf and leave it as is, because you know that it's going to contain things that you're going to need. If you're curious as to how I go about this, well, this basket right here, throughout the month, I add things to it with the intention of some of them being things that are going to be put in their designated areas, but for the most part, I just create miscellaneous buckets. Once this is full, as you can see, it's already getting overfilled, then I'm going to write a list of what's inside of it, move it into a more solid tote that I can put a lid on, and I'll just take that list on the outside. I found this is the easiest way to go about this. So with that being said, let me just go ahead and show you some examples of what I've tossed in here. Here on top is a nightstick headlamp. I have some Leopold binoculars. Here is a UST solar shower. It's a 5-gallon capacity. Let me lay these out a little better. I have a 5-gallon bucket opener. Remember, if we're stocking all of these foods in the buckets, you want to be sure to be able to get into it once you seal it. So I like to have a couple extra bucket holders. Here, this is the Aldi brand of Emergency, just to have some extra vitamins on hand. I actually have just a 40-pack of some envelopes, however you say it. I have some different sizes of batteries, because you can never have enough batteries. I'm going to save that for later. I have a couple ponchos for rainy weather outside. Okay, here's some smaller envelopes. I have a clothesline and clothespins. I actually have a couple bags of clothespins in here. Let's see, some extra shoelaces, some nasal decongestant. This is actually going to go in a first aid kit. Some extra matches, some wicks for an oil lamp, and then I have some door stops and wasp spray. Now, I don't know if you've seen in a previous video of mine where I talk about how you can use wasp spray to ward off intruders. I'll link it up above if you want to check that out. And these door stops are kind of along those lines. If someone breaks into your home, you don't have a security system, you can have these by your doors. If you shove one of these door stops underneath, they're not going to get in. And that's it. That's all that I have in my basket right now. So as you can see, some of this may not make a lot of sense to you, but in my mind, when I was shopping, it made perfect sense. So I'm going to throw it in the basket and put a label on it. So just have some fun with this. The main thing is to develop that mindset, and it just strengthens that eye of being able to see things and think in the worst case scenario so that you can be better prepared. Well, that's going to do it for this month's Prep Your Pantry Challenge. I thank you so much for stopping by, and I look so forward to hearing from you down below in the comments. And don't forget, we also have that Facebook group. I look forward to seeing you next time, and happy prepping. Bye!